If you're watching this video, chances are that something in your experience with the Assemblies of God Church has raised doubts, or maybe you felt uncomfortable with certain practices or teachings within the church. You may even be wondering if there is something wrong with the way things are being run. Whatever the case, I want to speak openly and candidly about some of the dangers present in this church and why I believe you should consider leaving if you felt manipulated, exploited, or spiritually burdened. This is a warning about the harmful tactics used by this church that manipulate and financially exploit their members. I'm sharing this because many people who have been part of the Assemblies of God have experienced these things and are now speaking out. If you have ever felt pressured to give, or if you've felt spiritually, emotionally, or financially drained, this video is for you. 1. Financial exploitation. One of the most insidious aspects of the Assemblies of God Church is the overwhelming pressure placed on its members to give money. Right from the start, the church introduces the concept of tithing, giving 10% of your income to the church, and teaches that this is a non-negotiable requirement of your faith. If you don't tithe, you are told you are stealing from God. This is a frighteningly effective tactic to make you feel guilty and scared into complying. But let's take a moment to really think about this. Does God, in all his power and glory, truly need your money? Or is it the pastors and church leaders who stand to benefit from it? Sadly, many members of the Assemblies of God Church struggle to make ends meet while the pastors live lives of luxury. It's not unusual to see pastors driving expensive cars, living in multi-million-dollar mansions, and taking lavish vacations, all funded by the donations of the very people who are struggling to get by. This money is not going toward charitable outreach or helping the needy as one would expect, but toward the upkeep of the pastor's affluent lifestyles. Have you ever wondered where your hard-earned money is actually going? If you've ever questioned the financial transparency of the church, you're not alone. Financial reports are rarely shared with members, and there is often no accountability for how the funds are being used. The pressure to give doesn't stop at tithes. The church constantly encourages members to donate more through special offerings, seed offerings, and promises of financial blessings in return. These donations are framed as a way for God to bless you with prosperity, but in reality, they only help the pastors get richer while many of their followers remain in poverty. You may be made to feel that if you don't give, you lack faith, or that you are not being a good Christian. This is a coercive tactic to keep the money flowing into the church. There are many heartbreaking stories from former members who were financially exploited by the church. Take Sarah's story. A single mother living paycheck to paycheck, she was told she needed to give 10% of her small salary to the church, even though she could barely afford to pay rent and feed her children. When she expressed her concerns, she was told that her financial struggles were due to a lack of faith and that she was somehow stealing from God. Meanwhile, her pastor drove a brand new luxury car and owned multiple properties. Stories like Sarah's are common, where people are made to feel guilty about their financial difficulties and are instead told that the solution lies in giving even more money to the church. What's even worse is that many churches lack financial transparency. Most Assemblies of God churches operate without the kind of financial reporting that legitimate charitable organizations provide, leaving congregants in the dark about how their money is being spent. In some extreme cases, there have been reports of pastors embezzling funds, using church money for personal expenses like vacations, luxury goods, or other indulgences, while the congregation remains unaware. The church leaders continue to live in wealth, while the people who support them struggle to meet their basic needs. The emotional toll of this financial exploitation is also enormous. Members who struggle financially are often made to feel like failures in the eyes of God. This fosters a cycle of guilt and emotional dependency on the church, which makes it even harder for individuals to break free from the financial pressure and manipulative system. 2. The prosperity gospel. Another significant problem with the Assemblies of God Church is the teaching of the prosperity gospel. According to this belief system, if you donate money to the church, God will bless you financially. In other words, financial prosperity is equated with spiritual faithfulness. This teaching places an immense burden on members, especially those who are struggling financially, as they are led to believe that if they give enough money, they will be blessed with wealth and success. The church promotes testimonies of individuals who supposedly became wealthy or successful after giving large amounts of money to the church, painting these stories as proof that the prosperity gospel works. However, what they don't show you are the countless others who gave everything they had and never saw any return. The prosperity gospel is a deeply flawed teaching that benefits only those at the top of the hierarchy, namely the pastors who continue to accumulate wealth while their congregants remain in poverty. One of the most dangerous aspects of the prosperity gospel is the unrealistic hope it provides. People are encouraged to make poor financial decisions, such as going into debt or emptying their savings, believing that this is the way to receive God's blessings. This false hope often leads to people sinking further into financial trouble, all while the pastors continue to prosper. Instead of helping people to make sound, responsible financial decisions, the prosperity gospel encourages them to trust blindly that a miracle will occur, regardless of their actual circumstances. This teaching distorts the true meaning of faith. Faith is not about acquiring material wealth. It is about spiritual growth and trusting in God's plan for your life. The prosperity gospel changes the focus from ethical living, service to others, and spiritual development to material success. It teaches that if you're not wealthy, it's because your faith is lacking, leading to feelings of guilt, shame, and spiritual confusion for those who don't experience the promised rewards. Former members of the Assemblies of God have shared painful stories about losing their homes, cars, and savings because they believed in the false promises of the prosperity gospel. Instead of receiving financial miracles, they found themselves in even more debt, while the church leaders built their own empires. The prosperity gospel encourages people to neglect practical financial responsibility and instead places their hopes in a false narrative that wealth is a sign of God's favor. 3. Emotional manipulation. If you've ever attended a service at the Assemblies of God, you've probably witnessed people shouting, shaking, falling to the ground, and speaking in tongues. The church teaches that these outward manifestations are signs of the Holy Spirit at work. But it's important to ask yourself, is this truly the work of the Holy Spirit, or is it an emotional experience manipulated by the atmosphere and the group dynamics? What happens in these services is a form of emotional contagion. This phenomenon occurs when individuals in a group unconsciously mimic the emotions and behaviors of others around them. When everyone in the church is engaging in dramatic displays of emotion, people feel the pressure to conform, believing that it is a sign of their spiritual devotion. But these experiences are often a product of psychological manipulation and group dynamics rather than a genuine spiritual encounter. Research has shown that intense emotional experiences, such as those that happen in high-energy church services, can lead to alterations in brain chemistry. This can create a sense of euphoria and detachment from reality, which some may interpret as divine intervention. But in reality, this is simply a psychological response to the intense group atmosphere and heightened emotions. The emotional manipulation at Assemblies of God services prevents members from engaging in meaningful spiritual reflection. Instead of fostering personal growth and introspection, these services encourage dramatic displays that reinforce group conformity and discourage critical thinking. Members may come to rely on these emotional highs, believing that their faith is dependent on these experiences. This emotional dependency further strengthens the control that the church has over its members, making it harder for them to cultivate a personal relationship with God outside of the church setting. What can you do? If you're in the Assemblies of God and feel that something isn't right, trust your instincts. You don't have to stay in a place where you feel exploited, manipulated, or spiritually drained. True faith should be about growth, understanding, love, and trust, not fear, guilt, or obligation. Leaving a religious institution that has been a central part of your life is not an easy decision. It can be emotionally difficult, and you may face judgment or backlash from those who are still part of the church. But your spiritual journey belongs to you alone, and it should not be dictated by anyone else. There are other communities out there, groups that will support your personal growth and respect your values. You deserve to be in an environment where your spiritual journey is encouraged and nurtured, not exploited. If this video resonates with you, please share it with someone you believe needs to hear it. I'd also love to hear your experiences. Have you gone through anything similar within the Assemblies of God? Share your thoughts in the comments below. You are not alone, and together we can help one another find spiritual freedom and truth. Stay strong and trust yourself. Your faith should empower you, not enslave you. See you in the next video. God bless you.